Dr. Amanda Price looked out the window of the spaceship and saw stars everywhere. She had never been this far from Earth before. The ship was called Serenity's Edge, and it was huge, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. The aliens who owned it were called Zephyrians, and they seemed very nice. Amanda was a scientist who studied different kinds of life forms. The government had picked her to be part of the first real meeting between humans and aliens. She felt nervous, but excited at the same time. This was the most important job anyone had ever given her. Lieutenant Commander Jake Murphy walked over to where Amanda was sitting. He was a military officer, but he was not wearing his uniform today. Instead, he had on simple clothes that looked friendly. The military leaders thought it would be better if he did not look like a soldier during these talks. "How are you feeling about all this?" Jake asked Amanda as he sat down next to her. "I still can't believe it's real," Amanda said. 6 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're on their ship going to meet their leaders." Jake nodded. The world changed pretty fast. One day we're alone in the universe, the next day we get a message from space saying they want to be friends. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for a long time, but they only made contact when humans started sending signals into space that showed they were smart enough to talk to other species. The aliens said they had been waiting for humans to reach a certain level of technology before they would say hello. A door opened at the front of the room, and 3 Zephyrians walked in. They looked almost like humans, but their skin was light blue, and they were taller. Their leader was named Ambassador Veltar. He had been very kind to Amanda and Jake since they came on the ship. "Good morning, Dr. Price and Commander Murphy," Ambassador Veltar said in perfect English. The Zephyrians had learned human languages very quickly. "Are you ready for today's session?" "Yes, we are," Amanda replied. "What would you like to discuss today?" Ambassador Veltar sat down across from them. The other 2 Zephyrians, who Amanda knew were scientists, sat down too. "We have been talking with our people about humans joining our alliance. Everyone is very interested in learning more about your culture." Jake leaned forward. "What kind of things do you want to know?" "We have observed that humans spend much time on activities that are not work or survival," one of the Zephyrian scientists said. "We call these recreational activities. We are curious about what humans do when they are not working." Amanda smiled. "Oh, that's easy to explain. People have hobbies. Some people like to read books, others like to play sports, and many people enjoy games." "Games?" Ambassador Veltar asked. His eyes seemed very interested. "Can you tell us more about these games?" "Well, there are many different types," Amanda said. "Some people play games with cards, others play games on computers, and some people like board games where you move pieces around." The Zephyrians looked at each other. Amanda could tell they were talking to each other without speaking. Probably using some kind of mental connection that their species had. "Would it be possible for you to show us one of these games?" the second scientist asked. Amanda reached into her bag and pulled out her tablet computer. "Sure, I can show you a game I like to play when I have free time." She turned on the tablet and opened one of her favorite games. This game is called Civilization. In this game, you get to build your own country and make it grow over thousands of years. She showed the screen to the 3 aliens. On it was a map with different colored areas representing different countries. There were small pictures of cities, armies, and other things scattered across the map. "You control all of this?" Ambassador Veltar asked, pointing at the screen. "Yes, you make all the decisions for your civilization," Amanda explained. "You decide where to build cities, what kind of buildings to make, and how to interact with other countries." Jake looked over at the screen. "Amanda is really good at this game. She's been playing it for years." Amanda laughed. "It's just something I do to relax. Watch. I'll show you how it works." She touched the screen and moved some of the small army pieces. "See? I'm moving my soldiers to explore new areas. And over here, I'm building a new city." "What happens when you encounter other civilizations?" the first scientist asked. "Well, you can try to be friends with them and trade things," Amanda said. "Or if they're being mean to you, you might have to fight them." She pointed to different parts of the screen. "Sometimes you have to make tough choices about whether to go to war or try to make peace." The three Zephyrians stared at the screen in complete silence. Amanda noticed that their faces had changed. They looked worried, or maybe scared. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Ambassador Veltar cleared his throat. "This is very interesting. You make decisions about war and peace for entire civilizations?" "Oh, it's just a game," Amanda said quickly. "None of it is real, it's just for fun. Look, I can show you other parts." She moved to a different screen that showed cities full of people. "You also get to decide what your people research and what kind of culture they have." "And you said many humans play games like this?" the second scientist asked. "Sure, millions of people around the world play strategy games," Jake said. "My kids love them. They're always building empires and conquering other players online." Amanda nodded. "It's one of the most popular types of games. People really enjoy the challenge of managing big civilizations and making strategic decisions." Ambassador Veltar stood up suddenly. "I apologize, but I just remembered that I have urgent business to attend to. Perhaps we can continue this discussion tomorrow?" "Of course," Amanda said, though she was confused by the sudden change. "Did I say something wrong?" "Not at all," Ambassador Veltar said, but his voice sounded strange. "Your explanation was very uneducational. We will speak again soon." The three Zephyrians left the room quickly, leaving Amanda and Jake alone. "That was weird," Jake said. "They seemed really interested until you started explaining the game, then they got all nervous." Amanda looked down at her tablet, which still showed her civilization game. "Maybe they just don't understand games the way we do. Their culture might be very different from ours." "Yeah, probably," Jake agreed. "I'm sure they'll get used to it. After all, it's just a game." Neither of them noticed the small recording device that had been capturing everything they said. And neither of them could have imagined how their simple explanation of a casual game would soon shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Ambassador Veltar walked quickly through the long hallways of his ship. His two scientist friends followed close behind him. None of them spoke until they reached a special room that only important Zephyrian leaders could enter. The room was round and had no windows. In the center was a large table that could show pictures and videos in the air above it. Ambassador Veltar touched a button on the table, and suddenly 12 other Zephyrians appeared as holograms around the room. These were the leaders of the Collective Council, the group that made all the big decisions for their people. "Council members," Ambassador Veltar said, "I need to show you something very important about the humans." "What have you discovered?" asked High Counselor Zethara, an old Zephyrian with wise eyes. Ambassador Veltar played the recording of his conversation with Amanda and Jake. The council members watched as Amanda showed them her civilization game. They saw her move armies around, build cities, and talk about making decisions about war and peace like it was nothing special. When the recording ended, the room was completely quiet. The council members looked at each other with worried faces. "She spoke of war as if it was entertainment," whispered Counselor Mekval. "And she said millions of humans do this," added another council member. High Counselor Zethara leaned forward. "Ambassador Veltar, you must gather more information about these human games. We need to understand what we are dealing with." Back on Earth, Colonel Lisa Hayes was sitting in her office at the Pentagon. She was in charge of the military side of the Alien Contact Project. A message came through on her computer from the Serenity's Edge. The message was from Ambassador Veltar. It said that the Zephyrians wanted to learn more about human culture, especially about the games that humans enjoyed. They asked if Earth could send them examples of different types of games so they could study them better. Colonel Hayes smiled. This seemed like a good sign. If the aliens were interested in human games, it meant they wanted to understand humans better. She called her assistant, Lieutenant Kelly Ross. "Kelly, I need you to put together a package of human games to send to our alien friends," Colonel Hayes said. "Make sure to include all different types. Board games, computer games, everything." Lieutenant Ross nodded. "Should I include the popular strategy games, ma'am?" "Absolutely. Give them the full picture of what humans enjoy." Over the next few hours, Lieutenant Ross gathered hundreds of different games. She included simple games like checkers and chess. She added computer games like Risk and Monopoly. She also included the most popular strategy games that people played on computers and game systems. The package included games like Total War, where players could control entire armies in famous battles from history. It had Europa Universalis, where players could control whole countries and change the course of history. It included Stellaris, where players could build space empires and conquer other planets. Lieutenant Ross also added videos of people playing these games. She found footage of gaming tournaments where people competed for money and prizes. She included interviews with professional gamers who made their living by being good at strategy games. She even added some footage of children playing these games. There were videos of 10-year-old kids playing Age of Empires in school computer labs, learning history by building ancient civilizations and fighting historical battles. The package was sent to the Serenity's Edge through their advanced communication system. Dr. Nathan Brooks was a military historian who had come aboard the alien ship to help with the cultural exchange. He was excited to share human history and culture with the aliens. When he heard that the Zephyrians were interested in games, he was happy to help. "I brought some of my favorite strategy games," Dr. Brooks told Ambassador Veltar the next day. "These games are based on real historical events. They help people understand how wars were fought and how countries were built throughout human history." Ambassador Veltar watched as Dr. Brooks set up a game called Hearts of Iron 4 on his laptop computer. "This game lets you control any country during World War II, Dr. Brooks explained. "You can see what it was like to make the big decisions that leaders had to make during the war." Dr. Brooks started playing the game. On the screen, a map of the world appeared, showing all the countries in 1936. "Watch this," he said. "I can choose to play as any country. Let me show you what it was like to be the leader of America during the war." As Dr. Brooks played, he moved armies across the map, built factories, and made decisions about which countries to fight and which to help. He explained how players could change history by making different choices than the real leaders made. Several Zephyrian scientists were watching. As Dr. Brooks played, their faces became more and more worried. One of them actually stepped back from the computer when Dr. Brooks showed how to use nuclear weapons in the game. "This represents actual historical events?" asked one of the scientists. "Yes, but players can also create alternative histories," Dr. Brooks said proudly. "Some people spend hundreds of hours playing these games, trying different strategies and seeing how different decisions might have changed the world." "And human children play these games?" "Sure, it's a great way to learn history. My nephew is only 12 and he knows more about World War II strategy than most adults because he plays these games." The Zephyrian scientists looked at each other. Dr. Brooks could tell something was wrong, but he didn't understand what. Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, military analyst Kethmos was studying all the games that Earth had sent. His job was to understand the military capabilities of different species. But what he was seeing in these human games was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The games showed that humans regularly practiced complex military strategies for fun. They showed that human children learned about warfare by playing games. They showed that humans thought about war and conquest as entertainment. Kethmos had studied hundreds of different alien species, but he had never seen anything like this. Most species only thought about war when they had to defend themselves. But humans seemed to think about war all the time, even when they were trying to have fun. He began writing a report to send to the High Council. But as he wrote, he realized that what he was discovering about humans was so unusual that it might change everything the galaxy knew about this new species. The Zephyrians were beginning to understand that they might have made contact with the most naturally warlike species they had ever encountered. And the humans had no idea how terrifying their casual games appeared to the rest of the galaxy. Military analyst Kethmos had not slept in 2 days. He sat in his dark office on the Zephyrian homeworld, surrounded by screens showing human games and videos. The more he studied these materials, the more worried he became. He had started by looking at simple games like chess and checkers. These seemed normal enough. Many species had strategy games. But then he began to see the connection between the games and real human history. The game called Risk was based on world conquest. Humans played it by trying to take over entire continents and eliminate other players completely. When Kethmos read about the history of this game, he learned that millions of human families played it together during their holidays, but that was nothing compared to what he found next. The computer games that humans called strategy games were far more complex and detailed than anything his species had ever imagined for entertainment. He watched videos of humans playing a game called Total War. In this game, players controlled armies of thousands of soldiers. They had to manage food supplies, plan battle tactics, and make decisions about conquering cities. The graphics were so realistic that it looked like watching actual warfare. What shocked Kethmos the most was that the humans who played these games talked about massive battles and the deaths of thousands of virtual soldiers, like they were discussing the weather. They would say things like, "I lost 5,000 men taking that city, but it was worth it," with no emotion at all. He found tournament videos where humans competed against each other in these war games. The winners received money and prizes. The audiences cheered when someone made a particularly clever military move or destroyed an enemy army. But the discovery that truly frightened him came when he learned about the ages of the players. Many of the tournament champions were teenagers. Some had started playing these complex warfare games when they were only 8 or 9 years old. Kethmos called his assistant, junior analyst Yelnara, into his office. "Look at this," he said, showing her a video of a 12-year-old human boy playing Age of Empires. In the video, the child was calmly building an empire, training armies, and attacking enemy civilizations. He was explaining his strategy to the camera as if he was teaching a class. "The child speaks of destroying entire civilizations as if it is a puzzle to solve," Yelnara whispered. "And look at this." Kethmos showed her another video. This one showed a human school where children were playing strategy games as part of their history lessons. The teacher was explaining how the students could learn about ancient Rome by conquering Europe in a computer game. "They are training their young for warfare through education," Yelnara said, her voice shaking. Back on the Serenity's edge, Captain Roy Fisher had joined the cultural exchange team. He was a military pilot who had been chosen to help explain human military culture to the aliens. But the Zephyrians had not told him why they were so interested in military topics. Captain Fisher was sitting with 3 Zephyrian researchers in one of the ship's meeting rooms. They had asked him about human military training, and he was happy to share information. "One interesting thing about human military training," Captain Fisher said, "is how much we use computer simulations and games. Some of our best pilots and strategists got their start playing video games." The Zephyrians leaned forward with intense interest. "Can you explain more about this connection between games and military training?" one of them asked. Captain Fisher smiled. "Sure. Games like Call of Duty and Battlefield help soldiers practice tactics and teamwork. We've found that people who are good at these games often make good soldiers because they already understand things like strategy, quick decision-making, and working under pressure." He pulled out his phone and showed them a video. "This is from a tournament for a game called StarCraft. The players have to manage resources, control multiple armies, and make split-second tactical decisions. It's incredibly complex." The video showed 2 young humans sitting at computers, their hands moving incredibly fast as they controlled hundreds of virtual units in battle. The crowd around them was cheering loudly. "These players can make 300 decisions per minute," Captain Fisher explained. "They have to think several steps ahead and adapt their strategy instantly when the situation changes. These are exactly the skills we want in our military commanders." One of the Zephyrian researchers asked, "How many humans participate in these competitions?" "Millions," Captain Fisher replied. "And that's just the people who compete seriously. Almost every young person in America has played at least some strategy games. It's part of growing up." The Zephyrians exchanged glances that Captain Fisher didn't understand. Later that day, Communications Officer Beth Martinez was showing a group of Zephyrian scientists some videos from Earth. She wanted to show them how popular gaming had become in human culture. "This is footage from the League of Legends World Championship," Beth said as she played a video on the large screen. "Over 100 million people watched this tournament online." The video showed a massive stadium filled with thousands of people watching 2 teams of young humans compete in a strategy game. The players sat at computers while giant screens showed their battle to the audience. "What are they competing for?" asked one of the scientists. "The winning team gets over $2 million, Beth replied. "These professional gamers can make more money than traditional athletes. Some of them earn millions of dollars per year just by being good at strategy games." The Zephyrian scientist looked confused. "Your species rewards people for being skilled at warfare simulation?" "Well, when you put it that way, I guess so," Beth laughed. "But it's not really warfare. It's just entertainment." But even as she said this, Beth realized that maybe the games weren't as innocent as she had always thought. She had grown up playing these games, so they seemed normal to her, but seeing the aliens' reactions made her think about them differently. Dr. Amanda Price found Beth later that evening. "Have you noticed that the Zephyrians seem nervous about something?" Amanda asked. "Yeah, they keep asking strange questions. About our games and military," Beth replied. "It's like they're worried about something, but I can't figure out what. Maybe their culture is very different from ours," Amanda suggested. "They might not understand that our games are just for fun." Neither of them realized that at that very moment, Ambassador Veltar was sending an urgent message to the High Council. The message contained all the information they had gathered about human gaming culture, along with a recommendation that shocked the council members. The recommendation was simple, but terrifying. Immediate review of human military capabilities required. Species may represent unprecedented threat to galactic security. The Zephyrians were beginning to understand that they had not made contact with a peaceful species that happened to be good at strategy games. Instead, they had discovered a species that had turned the practice of warfare into entertainment, creating an entire population that thought about conflict and conquest as naturally as breathing. And the humans still had no idea that their casual games had marked them as potentially the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. The emergency meeting of the Collective Council had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around the large holographic table, all looking worried and confused. High Counselor Zethara had called this meeting after receiving Ambassador Veltar's shocking report about human culture. "What you are telling us seems impossible," said Counselor Raxmoth from the Altarian Federation. "No peaceful species develops entertainment based on warfare." "I thought the same thing," Ambassador Veltar replied through his hologram. "But I have proof." He began showing the council the videos and games that humans had shared with them. The council members watched in silence as they saw human children playing strategy games in schools. They saw teenagers competing in warfare simulations for money and fame. They saw adults casually managing the conquest of entire planets while eating snacks and laughing with friends. "This cannot be their normal culture," whispered Counselor Velcara. "They must be hiding their true peaceful nature from us." But then Ambassador Veltar showed them something that made everyone in the room go completely quiet. It was a video of a human military recruitment center. In the video, military officers were talking to young humans about joining the army, and they were using gaming language to describe military service. "We found this on their public information networks," Ambassador Veltar explained. "Their military actively seeks people who are good at strategy games. They believe these games create better soldiers." The most shocking discovery was yet to come. The Collective's intelligence division had been secretly accessing human military databases, something they had never done before with any species. What they found made them realize that humanity was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Agent Kolveth from the intelligence division appeared as a hologram in the meeting room. His face was pale with fear. "Council members," he said, "we have accessed their classified military information. What we discovered is beyond our worst fears." He began showing them files about human soldiers and officers. The files contained information about their backgrounds, their training, and their combat experience. What shocked the aliens was how many of these military professionals had started their careers as gamers. "Look at this human called Sarah Kim," Agent Kolveth said, showing them a file. "She holds tournament records in multiple strategy games. She can play 3 different warfare simulations at the same time. But look at her military record." The file showed that Sarah Kim was a drone, operator who had conducted over 300 combat missions. She could control multiple military drones simultaneously, while making life-and-death decisions in real time. She treats actual warfare the same way she treats games, Agent Kolveth continued. Her mission reports show the same calm language and strategic thinking that she uses when playing for entertainment. The next file was even more disturbing. Lieutenant Ben Clark was shown to be one of Earth's most successful strategy game players. He had won millions of dollars in gaming tournaments and was considered a legend in the gaming community. But his military file showed that he was also one of humanity's most decorated combat strategists. This human has planned actual military operations using the same methods he learned from games, Agent Kolveth explained. His commanding officers describe his ability to think several steps ahead and adapt to changing situations as supernatural. But the intelligence that truly terrified the council came when they learned about human military training exercises. What humans called war games were massive simulations involving thousands of real soldiers, actual equipment, and scenarios that other species would consider preparation for total war. They practice warfare constantly, Agent Kolveth said. Not just their soldiers, but their entire population. Every human grows up practicing strategy, resource management, and tactical thinking through games. They have created a species where warfare skills are as common as the ability to read. High Counselor Zathara stood up slowly. Are you telling us that this species has turned military training into entertainment? It's worse than that, Agent Kolveth replied. They have turned entertainment into military training. Every human who plays these games is unconsciously developing the same skills that their greatest military minds possess. Back on the Serenity's edge, Admiral Grace Stone had arrived to join the Cultural Exchange Program. She was one of Earth's highest-ranking military officers, and she was excited to share information about human military culture with their new alien friends. The Zephyrians had requested a meeting with her, saying they were curious about human military traditions. Admiral Stone was happy to help, thinking this was a good sign that the aliens wanted to understand humanity better. Admiral Stone, Ambassador Veltar said as they sat down in the meeting room, "We are very interested in how humans train their military personnel." "Well, we have some of the most advanced training programs in the world," Admiral Stone replied proudly. "We use a combination of traditional methods and modern technology. We have heard that games play a role in this training," one of the Zephyrian scientists said. Admiral Stone smiled. "Oh yes, games are incredibly important. We've found that the gaming community produces some of our best recruits. People who excel at strategy games often make excellent officers because they already understand complex tactical thinking." She pulled out her tablet and showed them some videos. "This is footage from our military academy where cadets use gaming simulations to practice battlefield scenarios. We can put them through hundreds of different combat situations without any real danger." The Zephyrians watched as young human soldiers practiced controlling virtual armies, managing resources during simulated wars, and making strategic decisions under pressure. The training looked exactly like the entertainment games they had seen earlier. "These cadets are practicing actual military tactics through games," Admiral Stone continued. "By the time they graduate, they've experienced more combat scenarios than soldiers from previous generations saw in entire careers." "And this is considered normal training?" Ambassador Veltar asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Absolutely," Admiral Stone replied. "In fact, some of our greatest military innovations have come from people who first experimented with ideas in games. We actively recruit from gaming tournaments because we know those players have the skills we need." She showed them another video of Major Alex Turner, a military strategist who was famous for his innovative battle plans. In the video, Major Turner was explaining how he had developed a new tactical approach by first testing it in a strategy game. "Major Turner here is one of our brightest strategic minds," Admiral Stone said. "He credits his success to the thousands of hours he spent playing strategy games as a child. He says games taught him to think creatively about warfare." The Zephyrians looked at each other with growing horror. They were beginning to understand that what they had initially thought was a species with unusual entertainment preferences was actually a species that had accidentally created the most effective military training system in the known galaxy. "How many humans go through this type of training?" asked one of the scientists. "Well, only our military personnel get the advanced training," Admiral Stone replied. "But honestly, most humans get some exposure to strategic thinking through games. It's just part of our culture." After Admiral Stone left, Ambassador Veltar immediately contacted the High Council. His message was urgent and terrifying. Humans do not distinguish between military training and entertainment. Their entire population possesses combat-ready, strategic thinking abilities. Recommend immediate reassessment of threat level. The aliens were beginning to realize that they had not discovered a peaceful species that happened to enjoy strategy games. Instead, they had found a species that had somehow turned the development of warfare skills into a cultural pastime, creating billions of individuals with instinctive tactical abilities that rivaled their greatest military minds. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest meeting in over 200 years. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy had gathered to discuss what the intelligence reports were calling the human problem. Hi. Councillor Zethara stood at the center of the massive chamber as holographic representatives from dozens of worlds looked on with worried faces. Never before had a single species caused such concern among the galactic community. "Council members," High Councillor Zethara began, "we have called this meeting because we have discovered something that could change the balance of power in our galaxy forever." The chamber fell completely silent. Species that had been enemies for centuries sat next to each other, all united by their shared fear of what they had learned about humanity. "The species known as humans appear to be peaceful," the High Councillor continued. "They have shown no signs of aggression toward us. They seem genuinely interested in joining our peaceful alliance. But what we have discovered about their culture suggests that they may be the most naturally dangerous species we have ever encountered." Ambassador Veltar was invited to present his findings to the full council. As he showed video after video of humans casually playing warfare games, managing global conflicts for entertainment, and treating strategic thinking as a hobby, gasps of shock echoed throughout the chamber. "What you are seeing," Ambassador Veltar explained, "is not their military training. This is what humans do for fun. These are their children, their families, their everyday citizens." The council watched footage of 8-year-old human children playing Age of Empires during their school lunch break. They saw teenagers staying up all night playing strategy games during sleepovers. They watched elderly humans in retirement homes, competing in chess tournaments with the same intensity that other species reserved for life or death situations. "Every human grows up practicing warfare," Ambassador Veltar continued. "They do not realize they are doing it. To them, it is simply entertainment. But the result is a species where strategic thinking and tactical planning are as natural as breathing." Representative Korval from the Centauri Republic raised a tentacle to speak. "Surely this cannot be accurate. No species develops such capabilities without aggressive intentions." But then Agent Kolveth presented the most damning evidence of all. He had discovered that human military academies used gaming tournaments as recruitment tools. More shocking still, many of Earth's greatest military leaders had started as casual gamers. "This human general," Agent Kolveth said, showing a picture of General Patricia Wells, "conquered 3 enemy territories in their last global conflict. She learned her tactical skills by playing a game called chess when she was 5 years old. She has been practicing warfare strategies for over 30 years, and she considers it a hobby." The council learned that humans had something called professional gaming, where people made their living by being good at strategy games. These professional gamers earned more money than doctors or scientists in human society. The most successful ones were treated like celebrities. They have created a culture that rewards strategic thinking and tactical excellence, Agent Kolveth explained. Their most respected entertainment figures are people who excel at simulated warfare. But the revelation that truly shocked the council came when they learned about human military exercises. What humans called training operations involved scenarios that other species would consider preparation for galactic conquest. The intelligence reports showed that humans regularly practiced operations involving multiple continents, coordination of millions of personnel, and resource management on a planetary scale. They did this routinely, calling it keeping their skills sharp. Their military exercises are larger and more complex than most species' actual wars, Agent Colveth said. And they treat these exercises as normal training activities. After 12 hours of presentations and discussions, the Council reached a unanimous decision. The vote was the first time in galactic history that every known species had agreed on anything. The decision was simple but unprecedented. All information about human military capabilities would be classified at the highest possible level. Any species requesting details about human strategic abilities would be told that such information was sealed for diplomatic reasons. High Counselor Zathara announced the decision to the gathered representatives. "We will continue peaceful relations with humanity," she said, "but we will never reveal what we have learned about their true capabilities. The stability of our galaxy depends on other species never knowing how dangerous humans could be if they chose to be aggressive." The Council also decided that the cultural exchange program would continue, but with strict limitations. Humans would no longer be allowed to demonstrate their games or discuss their entertainment culture in detail. Any human request to share their strategic games would be politely declined. Back on the Serenity's edge, Colonel Peter Davis and Dr. Amanda Price were called to a meeting with Ambassador Veltar. They had no idea that their simple demonstrations of human games had caused panic throughout the galaxy. Dr. Price, Colonel Davis, Ambassador Veltar said, "We have completed our initial cultural assessment. We have decided that the integration process should proceed more slowly than originally planned." "Is there a problem?" Dr. Amanda Price asked. Concerned? "Not at all," Ambassador Veltar replied, though his voice sounded strained. "We simply feel that some aspects of human culture are too complex for immediate integration into galactic society. Perhaps it would be better to focus on other areas of cultural exchange for now." Colonel Davis looked confused. "What about the games that seem to interest you so much? Amanda showed you some really interesting strategy games." Ambassador Veltar's face went pale. "Yes, those games are very fascinating, but we think it would be better to discuss other topics for now. Perhaps human art or music instead." Dr. Amanda Price and Colonel Davis agreed, though they were puzzled by the sudden change in the aliens' interests. They had no way of knowing that their casual demonstration of Civilization 6 had been classified as intelligence about humanity's strategic capabilities. The cultural exchange program continued for several more weeks, but the Zephyrians carefully steered all conversations away from anything related to games, strategy, or military topics. The humans noticed that their alien friends seemed nervous whenever these subjects came up, but they assumed it was just cultural differences. When the exchange program ended, both sides declared it a success. The humans returned to Earth believing they had made good friends with a peaceful alien species. The Zephyrians returned to their homeworld with detailed files on humanity that were immediately locked away in their most secure databases. The final report filed by Ambassador Veltar was brief but chilling. Humans show excellent potential for peaceful integration into galactic society. However, under no circumstances should any species attempt to engage humans in military conflict. Their strategic capabilities are beyond our ability to comprehend or counter. Recommend maintaining friendly relations at all costs. Years later, when other species asked about joining conflicts involving humans, they were always told the same thing. Human military records are sealed for diplomatic reasons. No one ever explained that this was because the records were too terrifying to share. The humans continued to play their games, never knowing that their casual entertainment had marked them as the most feared potential military force in the known galaxy. Children continued to play chess and Risk during family gatherings. Teenagers kept competing in strategy game tournaments. Adults continued to manage virtual empires while relaxing after work. And throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations maintained peaceful relations with humanity, not out of friendship alone, but out of a deep and quiet terror of what might happen if they ever made humans angry enough to stop treating warfare as a game.